David Williams with Jesus Ministries, and this is my sister in the Lord.
Hi,
All right, Carolina.
I'm Carolina.
All right, Carolina. Would you state your full name and where you're from?
I'm Carolina. I live in Florida, but I was originally born in Colombia.
Excellent. Okay, so what are we doing this video about today?
Atheism. I used to be an atheist for 10 years before I came to the Lord, so I want to share my testimony and hopefully people will hear the truth and come to Jesus.
Amen. Okay, how do you define an atheist?
An atheist, for me, I would define it as somebody that just denies the existence of God and just says that there's no God.
Have you met a lot of atheists growing up?
Here and there, not, I wouldn't say a lot. I used to be married to one. I know one now.
Yeah.
I don't think people just come out and say I'm an atheist unless you start talking to them about God.
Did you find that atheists had a different level of morality? Were they less moral or more moral than some of the Christians that you knew?
Well, when I was an atheist, I didn't know any Christians. And the people that I thought were religious didn't change. So that was one of the reasons why I was led to believe that there was no God. So were atheists less of a moral people? In a sense, but it's still in us to have some type of morality. So it can be a no and a yes, depends on the person.
So your expectations, even as an unsaved person, was that if a person was a Christian, then they would be different?
If they believe in God, yeah, that they will be different.
So the fact that you didn't see people exhibiting that caused you not to believe that there was a God?
Mm-hmm.
You also made a very interesting point about how in atheism, or how if we are moral people,
Mm-hmm.
then we will behave in a moral way.
Mm-hmm.
So then what's the difference between a Christian and an atheist? If an atheist is moral, that's good, and if a Christian is moral, that's good. So why not remain an atheist? Why would a person want to convert to Christianity if, as a person, he's already moral?
I want to say it's a different standard that you want to follow. When you're in the world, maybe you don't want to hurt people, you don't want to do to others what you don't want to be done to you. That's something that I believed on, that I walked in. But there's some other people that just don't mind lying, but they wouldn't just go and kill anybody. Now, if you're a Christian, you fear the Lord, and everything that you do is going to be between you and Him, and you don't want anything separating you from Him. So there is a different standard between a non-believer and a Christian.
Very true. All right. How long did you identify as an atheist?
Over 10 years.
10 years. In that 10 years, did you waver back and forth as to whether you believed that there was a God or not?
I want to say that I always, when I became a believer, I said it was in my DNA to believe that there was a God. Because if I was in hard times and I was crying and I felt some kind of pain, I would say, "Where are you, God?" But if I got out of that, I would just snap out of it and be like, "There's no God. He's never going to come if He was real." Because He's not real. So I would go to church and I felt like I was being touched, but it was a Catholic church, so I don't know what was going on. Was I wavering? In a sense, I was fighting with myself, but I would just be mad and say, "No, there's no God."
Did you see any signs of the existence of God while you were in that 10-year span of atheism? Were there things that occurred that made you wonder whether there was a God or not because of their significance?
That's a good question. I probably the thought of dying was scary, and it didn't make sense to just go into the ground and have it be nothing. So that was me kind of wavering, is there a God or not? And what does he want out of my afterlife? Is there something after I die? And is he the one that's gonna decide? It, was there any big event? I don't think so, no.
So in that 10 years, you didn't see any, so in that 10 years, you never saw anybody perform a miracle
No.
or hear any answered prayer?
No.
What about any testimonies of the afterlife? Had you heard any of those? People who had either had near-death experiences or who had actually died and come back?
No.
So none of that?
No.
Okay. So what started you on your road back to the belief in a God?
I wanted things out of life that were very unreachable, if that's even the word to say. I wanted big money, big fame, but I was never gonna get it. I just wanted a purpose in life, bigger than me. I felt like there was something that I could do that was bigger than me. I wanted to speak for the people that were poor, that they didn't have any voice. I wanted a platform. So I knew money would get me there. And I knew music will get anybody to listen. So that's what I wanted. But then my life just started going backwards slowly. And I started doing drugs. I was dating a girl. My life was just in a bad place. Darkest place of my life. Very depressed, very angry at the same time. And one day I started looking things up on the internet, and I said, everybody's going against God. So he must be real in a sense. And then I started asking, like, if you are real, can you please, I don't know what to do. And he just showed up.
You say he just showed up. What do you mean?
I believe my eyes were open to what life was about and the spiritual things of life. Like, there is a fight, and I felt the fight going on between the enemy and the Lord and our attention and who's gonna get who, and I was being pulled. That's how I felt.
Was your mother religious?
She went to church, but I wouldn't call her religious.
Did you let your family know that you were atheist?
Not my mom.
You never told her?
No.
Why not?
I didn't want to disappoint her.
So why did you believe that being an atheist would disappoint your mother?
Because we grew up in a Catholic church. We went to Catholic school. I did my baptism, my communion, everything that a Catholic person would do. Just telling her I don't believe in all that would have been like, I was just doing it to please her. I never thought of telling her.
Okay, so you said you did have a lot of atheist friends, or?
No.
No? Your ex-husband, do you feel like he was more of an aggressive atheist? Because I find that there are two different types of atheists.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are passive and those who are aggressive. Those who just don't believe in God, and so that's just where it is. And then those who kind of hate God. So even if they did believe he existed, they just didn't like his ways or his words. So what kind of atheist was he?
An aggressive one.
So do you understand when I differentiate between a passive, okay, so how would you define a passive atheist from an aggressive atheist? What would you say the distinction is?
Well, a passive, they're believing that in themselves. They're not just spreading it around, telling everybody there's no God and everybody should believe the same. An aggressive is more like, what are you guys doing? Like, let's snap out of it. There's no God. Like, you're in fantasy mode. And that's what a lot of aggressive atheists do. They just want to come against everything you believe. A more passive is like, well, you believe in that, then that's on you. I'm not going to believe. I'm just going to go this way.
So you consider yourself
a passive one?
Passive atheist. So did you ever tell anybody that you were atheist?
Yes.
Really?
When they would ask me about God or talk to me, I'd just be like, I don't believe in that stuff. I'm an atheist.
Did that ever get you into any arguments or
No.
debates?
Not really. People never wanted to contradict me. They just, okay, I guess.
Do you think that's because people were not Christian, or that you didn't have Christian friends?
I didn't have anybody that really believed or that was serving God in a tangible way that their lives will really be changed. I never had that in my life.
What about as you began to get closer to leaving that belief system of atheism, did at that point, or a part of your change, were there people that began to come into your life that lived significantly enough as Christians to begin to encourage you that maybe there is a God? I know you said that there were circumstances, but as you were gradually changing in your belief, did that change include people who were setting a certain standard or living a certain way?
There was one, but people knew she was a Christian, but not, I don't say she wasn't living it, I want to say she wasn't completely open about her beliefs. But I believe there was a tangible change in her life at that time.
Okay. Looking back, do you regret those 10 years of atheism?
I know they taught me a lot about life.
Explain.
Just people in general. I used to hate people, like, with a passion. But then I would know how to get things out of people. So, and it taught me a lot about myself and the things that I'm capable of, which aren't always so good.
So you're saying that in your time, because if we look at atheism as the belief that there's no God, then would you also say that believing that there's no God also means that there's no absolute standard of living?
It should be that way, but it's not always that way.
So there's no absolute standard. So you're saying that people should have an absolute standard, but they don't, or it's not always that way?
They do have a standard, whether believing or not or God, people do have a standard of living. And I never thought it was because there was a God or I was made in his image. It was just people have morals, don't they? People have feelings. But it wasn't because there was a standard that I had to meet. But I did always think, then if there's no God, why can't we just go crazy and do whatever we want? But there's laws and there's things that will hurt you, that prevent you from going there.
So do you think are those some of the things that prevented you from doing those things because of the fear of the consequences?
At times, yeah. But I did some really immoral things.
Okay. Did you ever feel guilt from doing those things?
After a while, no. At first, maybe, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm guilty. It was just like, I did that, okay. After a while, my heart was hardened, so I was all mind, but no feeling.
Do you think that most atheists are that way, and their lack of conviction, and when it comes to morals that are kind of outside of their own standard?
Perhaps. I mean, people are raised different, and they come to atheism differently, so.
Conclusions differently.
But, because I was talking to an atheist the other day, and I asked him what's the point of having morality, and he's like, well, sometimes you just want to make people laugh and make them feel good. I mean, it can be anything that people keep their morals just to seem good around people.
So again, I mean, if people have morals, then what do you feel the difference between the Carolina of today, who lives as a Christian, as opposed to the Carolina of yesterday, as far as the moral differences?
There's a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot. I mean, I don't just do what I want. I try to think of, are my actions going to have a consequence? Am I going to be separated from the Lord if I do this? I mean, sin does separate us from God, so it's, before I just wouldn't care because I thought there was no God. But it's not like I would go and kill a person or go and steal from a bank. It was just like, I can do this much, but I don't think I will have the ability to leave everything behind it to do all this. I don't think it would be in my moral standards to a degree to do all that.
What do you describe as your final reason for giving up atheism? I know you said that, okay, you know, you asked God to show Himself to you,
Mm-hmm.
and He did, in the fact that He began to open your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was there an event? What made you make the decision to transition from atheism to Christianity specifically? Was there a defining event?
Seeing the world in a darker way. Seeing how the enemy was playing the minds of the people and how he had control of so much, even my life. I just wanted freedom. I wanted not to be in a place that I was being controlled and that I didn't know until my eyes were open to that. So I wanted to serve something. I, for myself, like rules, I like standards, and I want to follow them. So that I was like, okay, then I broke all of them. Can I just do right now? Can I just follow what's good? Can I? And that was my breaking point. If I'm not doing good for my life, then what am I doing at the end?
At that point, did you seek out help from someone?
Well, I asked the the one person that was in my life. I said, I don't know. I feel like the Lord is knocking in my heart. I don't know how to let Him in. And she just said, just let Him in. Open the door. If He's knocking, just let Him in. He loves you. He did die on the cross for you. And I knew all that. And He hit me. Okay, then that's what I'm gonna do. And from there on, it was like I never looked back.
Okay. As a former atheist, did you believe in the supernatural at all? So there's no God. So that must also mean that there's no devils and no ghosts and no angels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So did you ever have any phenomena happen in your life? Did you know of situations where people were having supernatural experiences, spiritual experiences happening in their lives? How did you believe that there was also no evil force out there, no devil? So there was no God, there was no devil, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, at a point in time, I did feel like dead people were following me.
Mm.
I was living in a hotel, and I felt like there was someone that died in the bathroom, and it was like their spirit, their everything was still in there. It was freaky.
Mm.
So in a sense, I guess I believe in the supernatural.
So you do remember believing that there was something outside of this physical realm
Yeah.
that kind of, like you said, was following you.
Mhm.
How did you deal with that? Did you just ignore it?
I feared it. I wouldn't face it.
Yeah.
I would just hope that it would go away.
What are the emotional differences between the atheist Carolina and the Christian Carolina?
9 and 3. I was very lost, and in that I was very hurt. I carry a lot of hatred and a lot of pain. I wanted to die every day, but I was too afraid to even what's gonna happen. Where am I gonna go? But now I have peace. I am striving for something good, and I have help. I have the Holy Spirit. I have the Lord. He's the one that gets me through everything, and I don't have to fear anything anymore. I can just lean on Him, and He's faithful. He's strong and He's mighty. So I have no. I don't want to say I don't have any worries, but I don't have any worries. It's just He takes them from me.
So what would your message be to any of the passive or aggressive atheists who might be watching this interview?
Well, first of all, if you're an aggressive atheist, then that means you're really mad at something that doesn't exist. When you're trying to fight against something that doesn't exist, but if God doesn't exist, then what's the point of being so aggressive about it? Of trying to get everybody to go along with you? It sounds to me more like a hatred towards God than not believing that He's there at all. And for the passive, I mean, it's like you're being tugged and you just don't know where to go. Like, I don't believe, but I'm not willing to listen to anybody. So it's like you're in a war between God and the enemy, and not believing and believing, because you're not completely out just hating God, but you in your heart just have unbelief. But there has to be a fight in you that wants to go either way. There is a choice for everyone.
So do you believe that Jesus Christ is the answer to how would Jesus help the aggressive atheist as opposed to how would Jesus help the aggressive atheist? How would Jesus help the passive atheist?
For both of them, I say He will heal their hearts, most definitely. I think it's a hard thing, not believing that there's a God. There has to be something that sprung up that makes you not want to believe. And there has to be a hurt. For me, most definitely I was hurt that God never came to my rescue when I thought He should have. I was entitled, and I should have never been entitled. So for either passive or aggressive atheists, there is healing from all of that, and He will bring that to anybody that is willing to surrender and say that He does exist.
Well, thank you, Carolina, very much for this interview.
Thank you.
Bless you. And we'll talk again.
That was interesting.